Hello, welcome to our channel. My name is Usman. Today I want to talk about 3 reasons why I didn't or couldn't switch from Sony to Fujifilm or entirely switch over. Right now I'm shooting with both Sony and Fujifilm, but the original plan last year was that I was going to sell all of my Sony cameras, all of my Sony lenses, and I was going to buy 2 Fuji X-T3s and a bunch of lenses. I was going to buy the 23mm, the 35, 56 and the 90mm, and that was going to be my travel and video setup. But although I did buy a Fuji camera, the X-T3, and I did buy some lenses for it, I didn't make the switch, or I didn't completely switch over, because I realized that there were a few major reasons why I just couldn't do it. It just wasn't feasible based on the kind of work that we're doing. And I'm producing this video not as a way to kind of point fingers at Fuji, but I'm producing this video because I know that Fujifilm listens. They care about their customers and they really do listen. So I'm producing this video in the hopes that Fujifilm will take these as polite suggestions and maybe implement some of these things in newer versions or newer cameras that could be coming soon. So the first reason is battery life, and battery life is really not that great on the X-T3, and I honestly can't go through that again because I went through terrible battery life with the A7R II, and as soon as the A7R III came out, I updated because battery life is a huge problem for me. I really don't want to go through scenarios where I have to carry 4 to 5 batteries per shoot per camera, and if I'm shooting with 2 X-T3s and that's about 10 batteries, it's just not convenient. I really hated it. I mean, if we're shooting on gimbals, having to take the camera off to change batteries is just not something that I want to do. I don't want to shoot with battery grips because battery grips make the camera too big, and the whole point of my system, or the whole point of the way we're shooting, is that I like something smaller and lighter, and battery grips are also a little bit trickier to balance on gimbals. I mean, if Fujifilm made their camera grips slightly larger, I wouldn't mind, just to be able to accommodate a larger battery, because that's something that a lot of Fuji users have been complaining about, and I really hope that Fujifilm can update that, because if they can get that one thing sorted, it's going to make a big difference for a lot of people out there. Battery life at the moment, it's pretty bad. The second reason is autofocus. Now, autofocus on the X-T3 is fantastic. It's one of the best when it comes to mirrorless cameras for stills. For video, it's not that great. The video autofocus on the X-T3 is a little bit hit and miss. On occasions it's fantastic, but then there are certain occasions where it just doesn't want to work properly, and I think there's just a problem with consistency where the Sony does a better job, especially for video when it comes to autofocus. It's just a lot better. But the main issue with the autofocus on the Fuji cameras is that it looks a bit too digital. Like, there's no transition when you're going from, focusing from one subject to another. Instead of having a smooth transition between both subjects, it just kind of snaps back and forth, and it looks terrible on video. It's very jarring and quite distracting. With the Sony, you have this smooth kind of focus pull, but on Fuji, it's just always very snappy. It just goes from one subject to another, and that looks terrible on video. It really does not work. So I hope that Fujifilm can sort this out for video. They can have like a different set of algorithms, because for stills, that's fine. That's perfect for pictures, because you want your subject to snap into focus very quickly, but you don't necessarily want that for video. So I hope that Fujifilm can have like a separate system for their video autofocus, because that I think will go a very long way, especially considering the incredible features that Fujifilm have already implemented for video in their X-T3 cameras. So really hope that Fujifilm can fix that, really. And the third reason is lenses. Now, before some of you get a little bent out of shape about this, I should clarify. I'm not trying to frustrate or annoy anyone. I'm just telling you what I think based on my experiences and preferences. And there are certain lenses that Fuji have, certain core lenses that I use, where Fujifilm just doesn't have good enough alternatives for it. And the first one is the 85mm f1.8, the Zeiss Batiste. Now, we did a comparison a little while ago where we compared it to the 56 f1.2, and the Batiste was better in almost every regard. It's sharper wide open, it's snappier when it comes to the autofocus. It's just a better lens in almost every case. Now, I love the 56mm f1.2 because it has a lot of character. So it's not the image quality per se which is the deciding factor. The main point is actually the autofocus for video. The 56 f1.2 has some really slow motors. It's quite an old lens in terms of design, and I think Fujifilm designed this at a time when video wasn't much of a priority for them. But since then, Fujifilm has produced some of the best cameras when it comes to video features for APS-C. And I really think that Fuji needs to update the 56 f1.2. They need to produce a Mark II with much better autofocus design and something that's gonna keep up with the video features that they've currently got in their cameras, and they are gonna continue developing. So the 56 f1.2, brilliant lens, but it just isn't up to date when it comes to the focus motors. The second lens is the 55mm f1.8, and it's the lens that I'm shooting with right now. It's the most used lens. It's an incredible lens. I mean, this lens is tiny. It's got some incredible image quality, and the autofocus is brilliant both for video and stills, and Fuji just doesn't have anything anywhere near as good as this in a single lens. The 35 f1.4, brilliant lens, similar-ish depth of field, but the autofocus just isn't anywhere near as good as the 55mm. And then there's the 35 f2, which has really good image quality, and it's got that autofocus, but again, it just doesn't have that depth of field that the 55 f1.8 has. And I just think that Fuji needs to produce an f1.2 version of the 35mm, which is gonna be that f1.8 equivalent, or maybe just update the f1.4, keep it small and light. I mean, between f1.4 and f1.2, it's not a major difference. So if they just updated the 35 f1.4 so that it is a lens that can focus as effectively as the 55 f1.8, or it's just got much better focus motors, so it's up to date with Fuji's video features, then that would go a long way. And the last lens isn't really a major point, because the 28 f2 that I shoot with, although I love that lens, you know, I shoot with the 23 f2 on the Fuji, and the 23 f2 is close enough, and honestly it's such a good lens. I really don't miss the 28 f2 when I'm shooting with the Fuji. But overall, lenses from Fuji, some of the core lenses that I shoot with, Fuji just doesn't have good enough alternatives. So I hope that they update some of the lenses that they've got, which are well loved for stills. They're just not up to date when it comes to video. And finally, I do have a bit of a bonus point, and this isn't a major thing, but it's something that I think is quite helpful, and that is that Sony cameras allow you to go from APS-C mode to full frame. So you can go into crop mode and full frame, back and forth in video, which is incredibly useful, because in video you don't lose any resolution. So if you're shooting on a 28mm, you've got the field of view of a 28mm, you can crop in, and then you've got the field of view of a 40mm, and you're not losing any resolution. There's no downside. You've just got different fields of views with one lens, and that's incredibly useful. So maybe, I mean, I don't know, if it's possible for Fuji to offer something like that, then that would be great. It's not a big deal, but it is something that I think I would miss if I moved completely over to Fujifilm. So yeah, those are 3 reasons, or 3.5 reasons, why I couldn't switch from Sony to Fujifilm. At the moment, we're shooting between Sony and Fuji, so it's a bit of a compromise. Ideally, I'd like to move over to Fujifilm, because Fuji cameras offer features like 4K 60p, 422, 10-bit. They offer brilliant video features, which Sony has been dragging their feet on. Sony customers have been asking them for these features for years now, and they just don't seem to want to offer them. And Fuji has been, you know, Fuji has it in the X-T3. So this is, you know, I'd like to move over to Fuji, and I think that if Fuji did provide these updates or made a few changes, then they would comfortably compete with some of the more expensive full-frame cameras on the market. So again, I'm not trying to annoy anyone or, you know, make anyone angry with my comments. These are just some of my suggestions because I like Fuji cameras. That's basically what it is. But yeah, thank you for watching my video. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, share this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you.